Good morning. My name is Julia Wanjiko. It's time for us to get to the big conversation. Now, 21% of Kenyan women between 15 and 49 years have undergone female genital mutilation. More than 4 million women and girls in Kenya between that age group bracket, are therefore living with the effects of FGM. In 2001, Kenya passed the Children's Act that prohibits female genital mutilation, and 10 years later passed the Prohibition of FGM Act of 2011 that banned FGM nationwide. Under this law, it is illegal to practice a female cut in Kenya or take someone abroad for it. In November 2019, President Uhuru Kenyatta pledged to end FGM by 2020. That was 8 years ahead of the 2030, the global goal agreement by the United Nations members. In 2012, the UN General Assembly designated February 6th, which was this past Saturday, as the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, with the aim to amplify the efforts on the elimination of this practice. Now, we are joined in studio by Eunice Kilundo, who is the Child Protection and Advocacy Manager, Child Fund, to help us know the interventions that have been made to stop the vice in Kenya. We are also delighted to have Awino Nyamolo in studio, the communication specialist at Child Fund. Welcome to the program, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, for those who may not quite understand, let's begin by understanding what female genital mutilation really is.
Yeah, so female genital mutilation is involves the reparation or total removal of external female genitalia and other injuries to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons, and the practice has no health benefits for girls or women.
The people use these words interchangeably. FGM, circumcision, are they the same thing?
Yes. For it to look good, it's called circumcision, but we choose to call it FGM because it involves mutilation of the female genital organ.
We know for more than 4 million women and girls in Kenya between 15 and 49 are living with the effects of FGM. Just paint the picture these numbers portray.
I think in the last century, I think this FGM has been the biggest violation of rights for women and girls within and without the East African and African borders. Well, 4 million women and girls is not a small number. Medically, the risks faced, apart from obvious risk of death, which occurs almost 6 out of 10 cases, the girls also risk when they grow up and possibly are during childbirth, they risk not being able to safely have their children. And if the medical practitioners involved in the childbirth are not informed, the women risk bleeding out and probably losing their life or the newborn's life. They also risk what is called fistula, which is the uncontrollable emission of urine throughout, or it could be bodily fluids or blood, and also the risk of infection that they would face. And the most painful one is the possibility of not ever having any sensation around the reproductive organ. So this is something that the girls and the women live with throughout their lives, and it's something that we have to put an end to.
So with all the risks that you have mentioned, parents still give away their daughters to FGM. What are some of the reasons that push parents to give away their daughters for FGM and consequent, this mutilation?
Okay, most of the reasons are associated with the culture. It's been since time immemorial, the communities that practice FGM practice it as a cultural practice. And so, like we all know, when culture is so ingrained in the community, it becomes very difficult to get to deviate from it. So culture, and again economic reasons. FGM is very closely associated with child marriage. So parents put their girl children children through FGM in preparation for marriage. And of course, maybe citing one of the push factors during this COVID season is actually economical, whereby parents do not have a way of livelihood, and so they find it as a easy way out to take their children through FGM so that they can be ripe for marriage in exchange for property.
Are there still cases of like stigma for families that do not take their children, their daughters, for FGM? Like you said, this usually leads to subsequent child marriage. So
Yes.
what are the effects of not going through it for the parents?
Okay, yeah, you become a social misfit in the communities that practice it. There's a lot of hostility at community level. Being branded the parent of the girl who has not been put through the cut, they would rather do it than face such kind of consequences. Again, there's that belief, I will say, in those communities that a girl who has not gone through FGM will not get married. So no parent wants to live with their daughter, forever. So they want to subject their children to that so that eventually they can find husbands, so to say.
Let's stay with the culture issue, and take us through some of the myths and misconceptions about FGM.
The first one is that it is a rite of passage. You're not a woman until you're cut. The second one is, and for the communities that are doing it for religious purposes, so to speak, is that for a woman, this is one of the ultimate expressions of your devotion to whatever deity you believe in. And third one, it is also a show of courage for the woman. I mean, you went through this cut and not medicalized. For those who do it without any medication. So it shows courage and also that this is a woman who can take care of the family. This is someone who can defend the husband, the community, the children. And so all these misconceptions put together, it's a great push for these women. And this is put in their head right from the time they can conceive it, they can perceive anything. From the age of 2, they are told, prepare yourself for this, prepare yourself for this. So, yeah.
Because we've had cases where there are girls who've been rescued from undergoing FGM, but then there are those who have run back themselves to go through this. Is that being like, is saying that this has been told to them since they were little girls, that this is the only way you become a woman? Or what leads a girl to go back there, quote unquote, deliberately to undergo the cut?
Yeah, because it's she, like I said, she feels like she'll become a social misfit. There is that peer pressure that drives the girls to want to be like the other girls. Living within a community or an environment where everybody believes that's a rite of passage, and not unless you go through that you will not become a complete woman. Then nobody wants not to become a complete woman. So many of the push factors are to do with the peer pressure, the community expectations. Of course, like you have said, there are those girls who defy all that, and when you follow through, you find that those are girls who have actually had exposure to what the benefits of not being cut, and so they are able to adamantly turn back. Not succumb to the pressure of FGM. Girls who have goals. You'll allow me to just mention the fact that upbringing and the immediate family plays a critical role in helping the child appreciate that they are okay not being cut. Helping the children, know the benefits of not being cut, defending the child, so to speak, against the cut. Because I believe that if the parent understands exactly the negative effects of the cut and the overwhelming benefits of not being cut, which includes access to education, which includes being able to follow your dreams. Every girl has a dream. So the parent plays a critical role in helping the child understand that you don't have to be cut, and even defending the child in the society, regardless of the stigma at society that is there. So it takes strength for a girl to say no to FGM, and for a family to say their girl will not be cut.
When Awino was talking to us about the misconceptions about FGM, she talked about, people believing that FGM is a rite of passage from childhood to adulthood. But what alternatives are there that such communities can use for these rites of passage?
This is where institutions like the religious institutions come in.
Right.
Religious institutions, there's no religion. First, I want to underscore the fact that there's no religion that allows, that subscribes to FGM. And so it's a misconception that you'll be acceptable, religiously if you undergo FGM. In the Bible, in the Quran, you will not find a place where they talk about, someone having to pass through FGM so that they can be acceptable to God. And so the religious institutions have actually ways that children can actually feel like they've graduated from being adolescents to adulthood. They are taught life skills, the ways of the adults. Like a woman is prepared to be a woman from transitioning being a girl to a woman. They are taken through life, specific life skills that they need to adapt to become women. And like in our organization in Child Fund, we actually have a whole 1 week, even extending to 2 weeks program where we take the girls away from the community and bring together mentors who will mentor them into womanhood. And if they need a sign to show that they've graduated to womanhood, we discuss with the community what is the best way that these girls can remember this occasion when they came together and were taken through this mentorship, and now they have graduated into women. It could be, some gift that you give them so that when they see it, they are able to associate it with that period when they graduated into womanhood. There are various ways from community to community. We believe, as Child Fund, we believe that some of these things we may not prescribe to the community, but we bring community champions together, the local administration, and discuss the best way to help these girls in this particular community transition. So there's no one size fits all way of alternative rite of passage, but discussing with the community, we are able to even with the children themselves, because we believe in the active participation of children. We come together and discuss, and then we are able to see over and above the training in life skills, the mentorship that they go through, one way that can mark this transition period.
I think it's good that you talked about the community champions, because I was going to ask about these alternative rites of passage methods. Are they acceptable, or are they accepted by the community? Because you can take the girls 1 week for 1 week and have mentors talk to them and all that, but when they go back to the community, does the community now recognize that now this was a girl, but now she has progressed into being a woman?
Yeah, we work very closely with the community. Child Fund believes in the participation of the community in the upbringing of a child, and so we don't prescribe solutions at community level for whatever thing. So we bring together, or we work with existing community structures. We bring together opinion leaders. We bring together the administration and everybody at community, the significant people at community level, and then we go through these conversations, including the children themselves, so that when they go back to the community, we don't take them away from the community. Taking them away does not mean removing them from the community, but we provide them an opportunity of seclusion, a place where they are within their community, and the mentors, most of the mentors come from the community itself. So that going back to the community, just like FGM, the triumphant entry back to the community after FGM, it becomes another triumphant entry back to the community with their leaders, with their parents, and with everybody. So when we work with opinion leaders in the community, these are the people, the gatekeepers of the communities. These are the people who, whenever they talk, the community listens. So when we involve them in these rites of passage programs, the children go back to the community and they feel accepted. And that way, even the girls who were scared of not being cut, when they see that happen, they are able to accept the fact that we can go through a rite of passage which is not FGM.
I'm going to come to you because earlier we talked about, Eunice mentioned about economic reasons being one of the reasons that push parents to give their daughters for FGM. Now, poverty is one of the reasons that makes families give their girls to FGM so they can get married. What activities, therefore, have you maybe as Child Fund initiated to empower these families economically to make them not vulnerable to use their children, for food or for economic empowerment?
Yes, maybe I can take a shot on
Okay.
that. Yes, Child Fund, first of all, has empowered the communities to be community-based child protection champions, where they advance the campaign against FGM. But over and above that, like I've said, economic reasons are one of the key reasons. And so we work with the community to find out what acceptable and viable economic opportunities are available at community level. And over and above that, we also expose them to other opportunities. Like, for example, most of the communities that practice FGM are in the northeastern parts of Kenya, where keeping livestock is the predominant economic activity. We know that that could be risky when you have only one economic activity. So we expose them to other available economic activities, such as agriculture, so that they are able to diversify their sources of income. And so through that, we are able to support them to be economically stable, so that we discourage them from looking at FGM as one of the only ways that they can earn a living.
Which counties are they where Child Fund implements a host of projects, I understand, through local partner organizations that assist children and youth? I understand in 25 counties. So which counties are these, and what are some of those projects?
Yeah, Kajiado, I'm going to talk about some of the hotspots, the hotspots where Child Fund has a presence. So we have Kajiado, there is Samburu, there is Marsabit, there is Isiolo, there is Tharaka-Nithi. All those communities are communities where which are notoriously practice FGM. So if I can cite a county like Tharaka, for example, we have an existing project actually which is ongoing, and in that project we are training community-based child protection champions, people who are passionate about children in the community, and those involve opinion leaders, like I've said. And so they have been creating awareness, community outreaches on FGM, and we have gone a step further to even support the community to establish a safe house, a safe house for girls who have escaped, who have been rescued at community level, who escaped themselves, or who have been who the court feels they are not safe at home. And so that facility is available, run by the which we are preparing to be run by the Department of Children's Services, so that girls rescued from FGM and child marriage can find safety. Yes.
If you're just joining us on the big conversation this morning, we are looking at female genital mutilation. See, the 6th of February, which was last Saturday, was set aside by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012 as the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, with the aim to amplify the efforts on the elimination of this practice. And this morning, we are speaking with Eunice Kilundo, who is the Child Protection and Advocacy Manager, Child Fund. And we also have in studio Awino Nyamolo, Communication Specialist, also from Child Fund. And they are helping us understand the interventions that have been made to stop or curb the vice in Kenya. We're taking a short break, but when we come back, what happens to the girls who have been rescued from undergoing FGM? Who takes care of them? At what point are they reintroduced back to the community? We'd also like for you to be part of this conversation. To do that, go to our Facebook page and post your question, concerns, or views. That's KBC English Service, or SMS us on 20154, start with the word English, or simply call us up on 0725 281428 or 0736 538 431. We are back right after this. We're getting to the second part of the big conversation this morning. We're talking about female genital mutilation. In Kenya, 21% of women aged between 15 and 49 years have gone through FGM. In 2001, Kenya passed the Children's Act that prohibits female cut, and 10 years later passed the Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Act of 2011 that banned FGM. Under this law, it is illegal to practice female cut in Kenya or take someone abroad for it. In November 2019, President Uhuru Kenyatta pledged to end FGM by 2020. That was 8 years ahead of the 2030 global goal agreement by the United Nations members. In studio this morning to help us understand about the interventions in place to curb FGM in Kenya. We're delighted to have Eunice Kilundo, who is the Child Protection and Advocacy Manager, Child Fund, as well as Awino Nyamolo, Communications Specialist at Child Fund. Just before the break, we talked about what happens to the girls who have been rescued from undergoing FGM. We usually see these stories in the news. We read about them in the newspapers, that these girls have been rescued from undergoing the practice. But what happens after that? I mean, who takes care of them, and at what point are they reintroduced to the community?
Okay, I mentioned Child Fund having initiated a project that involved coming up with a community safe house. And during this period when children are in the safe house, their resilience is being built. They are actually being given all sorts of life skills to help them be able to stand on their own. You will you realize that these children feel alone because it's their parents, the people who are supposed to be taking care of them and protecting them from every vice that expose them to FGM. So they need to have their resilience built, and over and above that, during the time they are in the safe house, they are able to access education. So this girl who is leaving the safe house is not the same girl who came to the safe house. She's a child whose resilience has been created, and above that, she leaves that safe house with a certificate, with a Form 4 certificate, or even beyond. When these children are in the safe house, we don't leave their parents alone. We also help their parents to appreciate the importance of these children going to school and all that. So we work with the community child protection champions to make home friendly to them, to make the community accept them back. So this is done two way. The girl's resilience is created. She's empowered in terms of education and in all other ways, and the community also is prepared to receive them back. So once they leave the safe house, in most safe houses, like I mentioned, we have the safe house in Naningoi, we have another safe in Kajiado County, we have another safe house in Tharaka Nithi, and these are safe houses that are run by the government. The Tharaka Nithi one is almost completed, and the Department of Children's Services is preparing to take it over. So when these girls go back to the community, they go equipped with, education-wise, even vocational skills are taught to them so that they are able to stand on their own. And again, the emotional trauma that they went with at the safe house is no longer there, and they are strong enough to be able to even support other children to accept and to appreciate the need for pursuing their dreams. Even without the cut, they are able to support other girls to also survive.
Women that have undergone the cut live with trauma and mental distress. What's done to help them through this?
Yeah, during the period that they're in the safe house, or even those who don't go to the safe house, those who are supported at community level, they are able to be. One thing I'll highlight this as a big gap. There's what we do as Child Fund and indeed other child-focused organizations. We don't do this alone, but then I would also say that there are no mechanisms at community level. For example, in the health facilities, psychosocial support is something these girls need above everything else, and supporting their parents appreciate the need to provide psychosocial support to these children. So I would highlight that as a big gap. We do that together with other child-focused organizations, but we can, it's like a drop in the ocean. The reason why FGM continues being prevalent is because those people who are supposed to do something to curb that practice are not doing the best they can. No resources have been allocated. Very little resources. There's goodwill. There's a lot of talk around let's tamp down FGM, but demonstrating that commitment has to do with allocating resources to the fight against FGM. So as Child Fund, we do what we do in terms of supporting these girls access psychosocial support, and so do other organizations that are child focused. But again, like we know, the buck stops with the government. There's need to allocate enough resources to provide psychosocial support in all the areas where FGM is prevalent, so that girls who have gone through the cut, many of them against their will, I want to underscore that. Much as there are girls who say we want to be cut, that's a very small number. Most of the girls, because they know the benefits of not being cut, the benefits of pursuing their dreams, they are cut against their will. So once they are cut, they feel almost something has died in them, that they will never recover. And so the psychological impact is almost lifelong. But to just make things better for these girls, there's need to avail psychosocial support services at community level. Prevention is better than cure, so most of the effort needs to go towards preventing. But if it has happened, there's need for mechanisms to be available at community level. Say, for example, the community health facilities. There needs to be a psychosocial support service provider seconded to every community level health facility to take care of girls who have been cut, and not even that, but children who are going through various protection issues. During this COVID period, children are going through quite a number of protection issues. And so gender-based violence, all that happening at community level. And FGM is a kind of gender-based violence, really. And so there's that glaring gap of psychosocial needs of children not being prioritized as key protection needs of children.
Let's talk about some of the other gaps in the long walk to eradicating female genital mutilation. You talked about there's a lot of talk, and the president, some said it was overly ambitious to say that, eradicate FGM within that short period of time. And this is a practice that has been here for years. And you talked about the lack of resources. But what are the gaps? Why is it that so many years later, we are still talking about female genital mutilation?
I want to underscore the fact that, and my colleague Awino will add to this, I want to underscore the fact that not everybody, like I said, not everybody is doing all they can do.
Who are these people that are supposed to be doing what?
The government, first of all, being the duty bearer, needs to demonstrate sufficient commitment to eradicating FGM. And commitment, like I said, is allocating resources to the intervention. Like, for example, there's the national policy against FGM, 2019 policy. There's, of course, the Anti-FGM Act that, in my opinion, has not been enforced to the best of what the government can do. That policy, including other policies, child protection related policies, they are there. We are very good with coming up with policies, but what about implementing the policy? What about implementing the policy? How about following up to find out who exactly these people who are still sticking to FGM are in our communities? They don't practice FGM and disappear. They are within the country. So how many people have been apprehended for how many even officials,
even chiefs?
Yes. How many of them have been apprehended for allowing FGM to continue in their so why I'm saying that there's not enough that has been done. And then all of us need to be there. Like, for example, what are the corporates doing? If everybody, like, I see job adverts that says a woman candidate is preferred. What about if these women are not empowered to be able to apply for those jobs? Some of them are struggling with FGM, gender-based violence, and all that. So there's demonstration of some bit of preference of women and promoting the like I said, employing women and all that. But what about putting our efforts, even as corporates, into stamping FGM? How about working with organizations and even working with the government as corporates to stamp out FGM? So all of us need to be eradicating FGM. I know is possible because FGM is practiced within our countries and we know who does it. So if there was sufficient goodwill, it's possible to eradicate FGM. If everybody did something about it. Yes.
Awino, would you like to add something?
Yeah, and I think that the best people who would be out there campaigning against FGM are the actual victims. the women and girls who have undergone this, and the communities who have felt the pain, who have lost its members to this ancient practice. And before, communities embraced it because it was ancestral, and it was very religious. But guys, now we know that this is a great violation to the rights of women. So if you can get these women and girls to sort of give their testimonials, how their lives have been messed up because of this practice, then that would be a great motivation to put an end to this. It is only these victims and these communities that can really help us, because they've felt the pinch.
A couple of years ago, we were some were in shock, others in dismay, when a woman moved to court to have FGM legalized, and she gave a number of reasons why she thought that should happen. I know the matter is still in court, but from where you sit, as we are trying to eradicate FGM, there's also this push to have it legalized, not ban it for everyone, like if someone wants to go through it, which you said this one sometimes comes from being indoctrinated from a very young age. How does that play into this whole struggle to eradicate FGM?
I would say, without flinching, that actually medics understand the medical implication of performing FGM. Why would you want to subscribe to something that deprives a woman of sexual pleasure, that condemns them to a life of servitude to their husband, not participating in the act of marriage in terms of appreciating its pleasure? And so why a medic would do that, knowing what mutilation of the genitalia entails, I fail to understand. And the only way I can explain that is probably financial gain, because there could be financial gain in undertaking the vice, but in terms of enabling a child access their right to enjoyment of marriage, then I think there is no good enough explanation why FGM should be, the medic should allow FGM to happen. Again, like I said, these children, they are radicalized, let me say, quote unquote, into they are persuaded into, they are given enough reasons to justify why they need to be cut. But from where I sit, I feel there's no justification to condemning the child of a life of deprivation of the ability to enjoy their sexual pleasure. Actually, many of them want, they undertake the act to prevent promiscuity. I can tell you now that you'd rather invest in instilling life skills in your child, you'd rather invest into empowering your child economically than going the shortcut of FGM, because if a child is not well cultured, if a child is not well brought up in terms of life skills and all that, they will become promiscuous nonetheless. So FGM, in terms of controlling promiscuity, doesn't score.
And I think let it be known that healthcare providers who perform and advocate for FGM are violating the girls' and women's right to life and rights to physical integrity. They are also in violation of the fundamental medical mandate to do no harm. And they are a threat to the efforts to eliminate the practice. FGM can never be safe, and there is no medical justification for the practice.
We've had quote unquote, again, clever ways that some parents or communities have devised to get women and girls go through this. Like, for instance, during childbirth, a doctor or an attendant is told that, while she's delivering, make sure that you cut. Have you personally, or as Child Fund, have you encountered such cases?
Yes, such cases happen at community level. And like my colleague has said, that's depriving a child of their right to choose what they want to be done. Really, why would you want to cut a child at birth? What if they and more often than not, they come and find out that has happened. Even a simple thing like piercing a child's ear, even parents do that. What if the child grows up and really hates you for having pierced their ear because they don't yes. So even I look at FGM like that. Children have rights. According to the UNCRC, children have rights to survival, rights to development, rights to protection, rights to participation, and they all those rights, they need to be given an opportunity to enjoy them. So if you cut a child even before they know what is happening in the world, that's gross abuse of the right of the rights of the child.
I've never looked at piercing a child's ears
Yeah,
like
I
that, but
know.
it is true.
Yeah.
What if the child grows up and is like, what did you do with my ears? We've talked about the gaps and the challenges, but I'm sure that even though we're not where we would want to be, there are strides that we've made. So what are those strides that you can talk about in eradicating FGM?
Yeah, I'll actually applaud the government for the efforts. Let's give credit where it deserves. Kenya is actually doing so well even in the region in terms of stamping out FGM. The Anti-FGM Act, of course, was a big. The prohibition of female genital mutilation was a big stride. Again, the national policy 2019 was also a big stride, and the Anti-FGM board, I want to say that having worked with the Anti-FGM board, they're doing a tremendously good job in terms of even supporting networking. I want to talk about Girls Not Brides. Is a movement. Is a movement that is doing very good work across the region, mobilizing networks to campaign against FGM across all the regions in the country. And Child Fund is actually a key partner in Girls Not Brides, and so I want to say government has done quite well. Again, the child focused organizations, NGOs, CBOs are doing a tremendous job at community level. Of course, the FGM has gone down in Kenya, and those are some of the things that are networking, coming together, coordination. Much as we are not where we want to be, but we've made steps towards that. Of course, like I said, there is quite much that we still need to do in that area. Household economic empowerment, the government has done that. When you look at the Vision 2030 and all that, you find that there's some bit of work that the government is doing towards economic empowerment, and also religious institutions are trying, although, like I'm saying, there's still so much to be done, because our target is not to reduce, our target is to eradicate.
Finally, as we bring this conversation to a close, what were some of the activities you can tell us that happened on Saturday, and what are some of the recommendations that were passed on the Anti-FGM Day?
Well, because of the COVID regulations, not much, but most of it was virtual. Children were brought together by different development organizations working closely with the government, where they talked about FGM and what it has done to people they know and the risks that are associated with it. These recommendations did not fall on deaf ears. We, as development organizations working closely with the government, took them down, and these recommendations by these children are going to be put into place to ensure that there's an end to this. Also, we have trying to bring in as many partners as possible. Currently, Child Fund is working closely with 6 child-friendly organizations in the country in a consortium called the Joining Forces Alliance Alliance on the Violence Against Children. This one is Save the Children, World Vision, SOS, as well as Teredi Homes. And we are working together to ensure that FGM is not one of the violations that children face. So my colleague could add on that?
Yes, yes. And one message that we are really passing across is that there's need for data, because we cannot have any interventions, well-focused interventions, without knowing the extent. Like there's that gap in data over this COVID season. All of us know that children have really been affected, especially girls, the teen pregnancy and all that, and FGM and child marriage. But when you look for the data, you're not able to say this number of children, but we know it's in the news every day. But doing that survey to find out how many, so that we can tailor interventions to the specific issues, is a big gap. So that is something we would want to underscore. Again, like I mentioned, let everybody be part of it. Media, I would give you the challenge, highlight it, make noise about it across the country, so that even if there is no documented data, we have the evidence from all parts of media. Let social media be accessible at community level. We know that social media is more active in the urban areas, but how about going all the way to the community level, so that we can create awareness to the communities that are doing. Let's make it look bad at community level through all ways, and media is one key driver that can really achieve that for us.
Well, thank you very much, ladies, for your time on the conversation this morning, talking about the elimination of female genital mutilation in Kenya. My guests in studio this morning, Eunice Kilundo, who is a Child Protection and Advocacy Manager, Child Fund, as well as Awino Nyamolo, Communication Specialist, Child Fund. Remember that a podcast of this conversation will be available on www.kbc.co.ke, and you can also listen again on air during the night runner straight after midnight.